Hi guys, have you missed another round of SpongeBob content? As every one of you for sure knows, SpongeBob SquarePants has got a lot of Easter eggs. In fact, the animators working at Nickelodeon love to include little hidden secrets in episodes. Fans with expert eyes and great vision may have noticed these, but here are 10 more hidden Easter eggs in SpongeBob that you probably never noticed. So let's start with a list to show you some awesome mysterious details that you may have missed. Number 1, a special dance. There have been many times during the history of the show where SpongeBob has done many activities related to some musical discipline. We know the famous episode Band Geeks, where Bob and his friends start what would later become one of the most famous musical groups in Bikini Bottom's history. But this time he left his instrument-playing duties aside and started to flirt with a new discipline, dancing. Of course, the episode we're talking about is Slimy Dancing, aired during the 5th season of the show. Squidward, Patrick, and SpongeBob decide to participate in a dance contest. While SpongeBob and Patrick ended up making it to the finals of the Bikini Bottom Dance-a-thon competition, Squidward's confidence for the win is crushed when he fails to proceed to the finals and is subsequently banned for life from the contest and booted out of the building when he tries to steal the trophy. But let's start with the Easter eggs that we can find in the episode. If you take a look at the episode's name, we have the first one right in front of our eyes. The episode is called Slimy Dancing. Dancing, movies, what could it be? This is a reference to the famous movie Dirty Dancing. What a way to start! Moving to the next one, there is a moment where we can find a reference to a moment that later on will become a mainstay of the series. As when Squidward hurts himself due to having cramps, a dolphin's cry can be heard in the background. This would be something that animators will apply every time that a character was swearing during the episodes to hide curse words. Interesting, right? Also, when everyone is cheering because Patrick won the competition, a cephalopod from the episode Cephalopod Lodge can be seen. Number 2, a ghostly fool? Have you ever been afraid of ghosts? In this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick find a houseboat haunted by ghost pirates, while SpongeBob and Patrick are lying on the ground watching the clouds until they see a haunted houseboat crashing to the ground near them. Patrick wants to check it out, but SpongeBob says that it looks dangerous. Patrick soon convinces SpongeBob to come with him, so the friends go check it out. In this trip, both friends will meet characters like famous ghost Lord Poltergeist and even have interactions with the well-known Flying Dutchman. But let's get to the Easter eggs, because this episode is plagued with cool ones. First of all, when Patrick calls Lord Poltergeist a singing robotic puppet from those pizza joints with the singing animated robots, he's referring to the animatronics from famous restaurants known as Chuck E. Cheese. And staying with food references, the cereal Frosted Brains is a parody of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. The MILKSHAKE gremlin bears a strong resemblance in appearance to the gremlins from the horror movie of the same name. Then we can see a symbol all over the purple wallpaper in the haunted houseboat is a fleur-de-lis, a noble decorative design symbol that literally translates to flower and lily in French. Look at how many references we had in this episode. It looks like a pop culture fiesta. Number 3, breaking the fourth wall. Have you ever heard about the phenomenon known as breaking the fourth wall? Usually this expression is a term used to explain when the characters in a show acknowledge in some way or another that they are indeed part of a show, and thus they talk directly to the audience. In the episode Shuffleboarding, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are watching TV in Shady Shoals Rest Home when SpongeBob and Patrick suddenly appear and wake them up. Mermaid Man attacks SpongeBob with the Murmurang, thinking he is a supervillain. In the resulting incident, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are injured and sent to the hospital, thus making our protagonist pretend that they are their favorite superheroes. It's here when, in an effort to introduce themselves to the audience, Mermaid Man and Barnacle break the fourth wall.
And defender of Bikini Bottom.
Sammy retired.
And his faithful ward, Barnacle Boy.
Who?
Hello.
Look how funny this is. Also, we see a cameo from a woman from the episode Have You Seen This Snail?, where she is being arrested. It's funny how animators tend to link their episodes and create a massive SpongeBob verse. Number 4, a deadly milkshake. Let's jump to this Season 9 episode because it is a really tricky one. During this adventure, SpongeBob returns to the Milkshake Academy after discovering his milkshake license has expired. The name of the episode itself is a big Easter egg because it's called License to Milkshake. I'm sure that many of you who are cinema lovers recognize this name from the famous James Bond film License to Kill. But this is not the only cinematic reference in this episode, as when SpongeBob is training, the montage is a parody of the movie Top Gun, with SpongeBob riding a motorcycle, flying in a fighter jet, and playing beach volleyball. This looks like a love letter to action movie enthusiasts. Number 5, SpongeBob, a karate master? We talked about military and action films during the last Easter egg, but what about an ode to martial arts films? This time, SpongeBob, alongside his friend Sandy, embarks on an adventure to Karate Island to become the Karate King. As we told you before, this episode contains many references to the films Game of Death, Enter the Dragon, and Kill Bill. For example, Sandy's yellow jumpsuit is a reference to the jumpsuit that both Bruce Lee and Uma Thurman wore in their respective films. Also, the concept of fighting an opponent on each floor is also present in both of these films. SpongeBob and Sandy being invited to an island is also a similar plot to the one in Enter the Dragon. Maybe the animators liked this kind of film, don't you think? Anime also plays a big part here, as we can find some references. When Sandy is getting out of the cage, she uses a series of hand signals which refer to the popular anime manga Naruto. Sandy's and Udon's muscle growth is loosely based on Toguro's 100% muscle growth in the manga and anime series Yu Yu Hakusho. Number 6. Famous in real life, famous in cartoon life? SpongeBob might be famous in our real world, but what about being famous in Bikini Bottom? This time, SpongeBob believes he has become famous off the Krusty Krab commercial. How ironic. Let's see which Easter eggs this episode has to offer. The Bran Flakes cereal seen in this episode is a real cereal by Kellogg's. And for our movie-related one for this episode, the leg lamp from the 1983 Christmas movie A Christmas Story appears as one of the props from the set. But this is not the only Easter egg we can find, because much like SpongeBob is believing himself to be famous, we even find references to real-life talk shows, much like Flounder Man, which is a parody of talk show host David Letterman. Number 7, want a scuba? During this video, we showed you many references to other media, like films, anime, other cartoons, and many other things. But how everyday things will translate into Bikini Bottom? In Season 11, we find references to things that we can easily be using in our everyday routine. But let's take a brief look at the episode Man Ray Returns first. At the start of the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick beg Squidward to remain in Bikini Bottom, thinking he's moving away. Squidward tells them he's taking a vacation and tells SpongeBob and Patrick not to bother the guest who is renting his house while on vacation. Then a person steps out of the cab, only for it to be Man Ray. The TV narrator introduces him, and Man Ray tells him he is on vacation. As Man Ray goes inside, SpongeBob and Patrick try to run up to him, but they don't get to him in time. The references in this episode might not be as impressive as others, but we see two things clearly showed here. The vehicle known as Scoober is an allusion to Uber, a company that helps people travel from point to point. But in this case, they don't use cars, they use scuba divers. And Squidward renting out his house to Man Ray is a clear reference to the phenomenon Airbnb, a method used by many people to rent houses while they go on vacation. Seems like people in Bikini Bottom are in touch with the latest social trends too. Number 8, A League of Evil. Remember Plankton? His plans to steal the secret formula have had many shapes and forms, and many of them have ended up giving us a big batch of Easter eggs that we know and love. So let's take a look at one of the latest schemes he's had, the one in the 13th episode of the show, in the episode Captain Pipsqueak. We know the tendency of the animators to include many comic book references, as we told in one of our previous videos, especially when Mermaid Man, Barnacle Boy, and Man Ray are around. In this episode, Plankton goes full-on villain and makes a big reference to villains from Marvel Comics. During the scene where Plankton tries on different costumes, one of the outfits he wears references the Marvel comic books villain Venom, but this is not the most important one, as Plankton's Captain Pipsqueak outfit resembles Marvel Comics character Magneto, so much that they look mostly the same. Seems like Plankton chose some big bad bosses to inspire himself. Number 9, Three Little Pigs Underwater? Who believes in fairy tales? In this season 13 episode, Karen tells the fairy tale of a nerd trying to steal an action figure from his three little neighbors. What makes this episode a whole Easter egg itself? That the whole story is based around the tale of the Three Little Pigs. I hope that everybody knows this tale, as when you see the clothes that SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward wear, you recognize that they're the same clothes that the three pigs wear in the 1933 Walt Disney Pictures short film, The Three Little Pigs. Also, we see that the big bad wolf is heavily referenced in this episode. Number 10, The Great Spongedini. And for the last one, who would have thought that SpongeBob could ever be a magician? During this episode, SpongeBob lets all his ability and magic lose to learn a new magic trick, but sadly, he doesn't have a brief chance to show it to anyone. But which funny references can we find in this episode? We found a couple of interesting ones. While training and learning new tricks, SpongeBob calls himself the Great Spongedini, which is a reference to famous magician Harry Houdini. And also, we see some cards that, with the power of magic of course, start dancing and moving with Bob. For those who don't know, this is a reference to the story of Alice in Wonderland, where we can find cards with similar powers and magic traits. So funny to see SpongeBob in his full performance. So there you have it, 10 more SpongeBob Easter eggs that you have to see. If you like the content, please subscribe to our channel to watch even more Easter eggs and more SpongeBob-related content. And until the next time, goodbye. Bye.